When you start your micro business, there are really two kinds of businesses you can run. A product-based business where you sell a product, or a service business where you sell, well, basically your time giving a service to a customer. Here's an example of a teenager in Ohio, Hart, Maine, who started a product business. This is called a man candle. He was inspired by his sister who was selling candles, but they had girly scents. He wanted candles that had man scents, like sawdust, dirt, grandpa's pipe, and this one is New York style pizza. Now, there are certainly some challenges that Hart faced when he started his product business, and that's what we're going to talk about during this session. We've got some students who've got some questions, and I'm going to help, hopefully, solve some of the problems or questions that they might have.
I have an idea for a product I'd like to sell. What kind of problems would I face?
Well, some of the big problems that you might face with a product business are the same things that Hart faced when he came up with his man cans. And that is that basically you're going to be dealing with inventory. You have to have the upfront purchase of the inventory, which can be kind of expensive. Hart had to purchase the cans. He had to purchase, obviously, the man scents and the wicks and the wax and things like that. But there's also other issues with products that kind of can serve as a challenge. You're going to have shipping and storage. You're going to have a place to store all these products. Then you're going to have to be able to ship them out quite quickly because your customers want their product and want it quickly.
How can I avoid making too much inventory?
Yeah, that's the problem. When Hart starts out, he doesn't know if he's going to sell 10 candles or 100 candles or 1,000 candles. So of course it's a good idea to start out small, make just a few, and test the market. I bought this at a gift shop, and they told me that the best-selling candle was Grandpa's Pipe. So after a little while, you're going to know which one of your products sell better than others, and that's where record keeping really comes in important. But another great idea might be custom orders. So only make something when you have an order for it. So Hart might make a bunch of candles only when they're placed by a store, and he knows exactly what candles need to be done because it's a custom order. That's one way to avoid putting too much money in inventory from the start. You're only making what somebody has already ordered.
Do I have to collect sales tax?
Do you have to collect sales tax? Yes. I'm sorry to say. Usually, you have to collect sales tax if you're selling a product to the end user. There are some ways to get around that, and one idea might be for you to consider wholesaling your product. To wholesale a product means that you don't sell the product to the end user and have to deal with collecting and paying sales tax. It means that instead you sell it to a middleman, like a gift shop. So I bought this candle at a gift shop. When Hart sells his candle to a gift shop, he doesn't have to deal with sales tax. Now the gift shop owner does have to collect sales tax and has to pay it to the state government. And sales tax can vary a lot by county, by state, even sometimes by cities. So there's a lot of record keeping involved in sales tax. Sales tax is a changing thing in the world today, that digital products and even sales over the internet are going to be taxed, sales taxable. They already are sales taxable, but small business owners and micro business owners are going to have to start collecting that. It's a changing world, and sales tax will be a very, very challenging issue for everyone in the years to come. It's something to keep our eye on about how to collect sales tax, how to keep really good records. You'll learn a lot about record keeping when you have a business because you're going to have to deal with sales tax. So Hart had a product-based business, and I don't want to discourage anybody from running a product-based business. If you have a great idea for a product, you go for it. But you're going to learn a lot about inventory management, record keeping, and as you heard from sales tax, you're going to have to learn a lot about that kind of stuff. A lot of teenagers do a little bit better, especially if this is their first business, by starting a service-based business, because you're not having to deal with some of those problems that products bring. Now, services probably have their own potential problems and potential pitfalls.
I offer a service and I'm getting very busy. What should I do?
Well, congratulations. You're getting very busy. And it can pose a problem because you're a busy kid already and life gets busy, and now you're trying to serve some customers. So there's a couple ideas I have. One is, I kind of already mentioned, you can have custom orders. You can only serve people as you can serve them. Decide who you're going to take and who you can't take as customers. But I really like the idea of maybe you should pass along business to another microbusiness owner. My daughter did that. My daughter taught piano lessons. And she had 7 students at one time, and that was all the more she wanted. 7 students was enough. She was making good money, more than she could make working at the mall. And 7 students a week brought in enough money she was happy with. But as people started finding out that she had a piano business, she got more requests than she wanted to take. So she would pass that along to another student who was running their own microbusiness teaching piano too. So think about passing along your business to another person. Another idea that's really a clever idea might be to sell your knowledge. So one student I know mowed grass, very popular microbusiness idea, but he got so busy mowing grass that he decided instead to sell his knowledge via a book. He wrote a book. This is Nick Tart, The Lawn Mowing Guide. Great idea. Sell your knowledge instead of your time over and over and over again. And it's just a way to branch out and maybe make money in a new way. And it's easier than ever to write a book and sell it than it has been before.
If I get too busy, should I hire help?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's natural to think, I'm going to hire help. When Hart got too busy, he actually hired his sister and his mom and dad, which is a good idea to help him fill these orders. What happened was his business went viral, and he had more than he could take, and he had to put a little note on his website about, I'm doing the best that I can, but I still got to go to school. Now, in general, I don't really like the idea of teenagers hiring employees. First of all, employees come with a lot of paperwork and taxes. You have to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes on employees. There's unemployment compensation and workers' compensation. And teenagers are not exempt from all this. The same rules apply to adults, apply to teenagers when you're employing a person. But in addition, employees and working and hiring an employee kind of comes with its own unique set of problems. There's the relational problem. Who are you going to hire? Your friend? Do you really want to be a boss to your friend? What if your friend doesn't do what you ask? How are you going to fire your friend? It's just not an issue I think teenagers should be worried about. I just discourage teenagers from hiring employees. So what are you going to do if you get too busy and you want to hire help? Well, I recommend a couple of things. You could hire independent contractors. That's individuals to work for you for a specific job. Like Philip hired me just to do his tax return. I was not his employee. Okay? So that's one idea. We also talked about passing along to somebody else. But hiring help in general, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend instead you try to ramp down your business, or you try to pass it along to somebody else, or you try to hire people individually to do a specific job called independent contractors.
How should I handle customer complaints?
Oh, customer complaints. See, one of the problems with a service business is you're dealing with people. And although products have their own problems, services have problems too. And one of those is you're going to deal with people, and occasionally people might complain about what you're doing. You're going to learn good customer service skills when you run a micro business. You're going to try to anticipate what their complaints might be and try to meet their needs. Try to be very clear about what you'll do and what you're not going to do. So one student who was mowing grass got a complaint when he didn't sweep up the clippings afterwards. Well, maybe that was part of what he thought he was being hired to do. So he could easily say to the customer, I'm very sorry. Get used to saying, I'm sorry. Get used to apologizing for things that are not your fault. It's just part of doing business. The customer's always right. And you're going to have to be humble and apologize for things that you didn't even do wrong. So apologize and then say, I'd be happy to sweep up the clippings, Mrs. Jones, for a little extra charge next time. What you're trying to do is please your customer, at the same time not be taken advantage of, and just make sure the expectations of what you were hired to do are quite clear. Sometimes it has to be in writing, so sometimes a flyer is a very good idea to spell out exactly what you'll do when you're hired for a specific service or specific job. Professionals do that all the time, and you might learn the same thing. I'm going to spell out exactly what I'm going to do to avoid getting customer complaints like that.
What should I do if a customer doesn't pay?
That's a really good question, especially with service-based. If a customer doesn't pay you, you don't want to get nasty. Let's first of all assume that they just forgot, okay? Because a lot of times they're busy. And you might be dealing with a situation where you're teaching a student and it's not the student pays you, of course, it's the parent. And the parent maybe forgot or just misplaced your bill. So what I recommend is you send an email reminder. That's just a nice, non-confrontational way to say, by the way, I didn't get your check, or you forgot to pay me last time. Another good suggestion is to actually write up an invoice. Put a piece of paper in their hand. And it's just a good business practice in general, and then you keep track of who paid you and who didn't pay you, because you can be forgetful too about who did pay me, who didn't pay me. Email reminders are good, telephone reminders. If it gets really bad to a point, you might get to the point where you just can't take any more business from that client if they continually pay you or pay you late. Sometimes you will learn you have to fire a client. I've had to do it. It's not pleasant, but you're in this to get paid for your time and your service, and you want to work for people who are ultimately going to honor your time by paying you for your time. So think about that. Think about non-confrontational ways you can go ahead and collect your money. Email is good. Create an invoice is just a gentle reminder that it's time to pay. Ultimately, if you have to, you can go to small claims court. I don't like that. I wouldn't recommend that, but make sure you get a lot of advice before you do something like that. Talk to your parents. Talk to some business advisors. I think you heard on some of the videos that one of the best roles parents can play is to be an advisor to their students as they're going through something like this about not getting paid. Let me share with you an example. My daughter, Sarah, like I think I told you, was doing senior pictures, and she had arranged one Saturday to take pictures of a friend of hers, and she had blocked out her schedule, gotten all her homework done, so she could go spend about 2 or 3 hours taking pictures, and about an hour before the appointment, he called and canceled. And she was angry, and she was upset, and she was mad. And I don't blame her. So we talked through about, well, what kind of policy can you put in place to stop this from happening again? Maybe you tell him, well, there's a $25 additional charge if you reschedule. See, his excuse wasn't an emergency. His excuse for canceling, I have too much homework. Well, my daughter had cleared her schedule and done her homework early. How come he hadn't? Because it was too easy for him just to cancel on her. So think about what kind of policies you might want to put in place. Put it on your flyers, put it on your website. There will be a $25 rescheduling fee. She ultimately rescheduled with him, took his senior pictures, got paid, but she had some different policies, and she learned a good lesson that way to help her be a better microbusiness owner after that. I don't want to discourage you by talking about the potential problems or pitfalls that businesses bring, because every problem or pitfall is really just an opportunity to learn more. So think about the wonderful different ways you can take a problem and turn it into something good, maybe something creative. Like I mentioned, maybe instead of selling to the final customer, dealing with sales tax, you'll think about wholesale orders. This day and age, it's so easy to consider things like ordering on demand. For example, books and music can now be ordered digitally in an era you couldn't do that before. Obviously, not every product can be digitized, but think about that. You're not dealing with inventory. Do you know that if you order any of my books today, I don't have the inventory sitting in my house. The inventory is not sitting anywhere. It's ordered and it's printed on demand and delivered to you instantly like that. It solves a lot of headaches, a lot of problems, no upfront purchase of inventory and things like that.